Alright, here's the video where you can say, oh, he's gone off the deep end. So, someone was, like, arrested because they promoted this other person, or today someone was arrested because they promoted violence against the YouTube headquarters after this, a vegan went to YouTube headquarters and shot a gun because they were censoring vegan videos. I don't know. I didn't really look into it. But I think we're going to see a lot more of this. And here's why. So, as you know, I'm a vegan. I can relate to people feeling angry at humans in general or angry at meat eaters, and so I understand why the person became a terrorist, right? A terrorist is someone who pursues violence for political aim. And I think the reason is precedent. So right now, in order to have a revolution, you need 3%, I believe, of the population to support a cause. Now, right now, I think in America there's 3.2%. I need to check the number in Canada of people who are vegetarian. But do they support the cause? No. So maybe it's not a revolution. But going vegetarian, I think, is a revolution that's going to gain steam and gain steam because there's multiple reasons to go vegetarian, which means there won't be so much blowback against terrorism, which means there will be more terrorists. So let me explain why people become why this person probably became a terrorist, and why people want to go vegetarian. So people want to go... Okay, I'll do the terrorism thing first. So people fight against humans... Okay. A vegan wants to protect animals, right? That's the whole thing. Animal rights. The animals have rights. We want to protect the animals. So, someone believes that by committing an act of violence, it will prevent suffering down the road. That's the whole point. But I think, even if someone deserves to die, you don't have a right to kill them. That means you need to... There actually has to be a precedent. So if you're a bloodthirsty murderer, killing someone would have to set a precedent, right? If every vegetarian was called a terrorist because someone shot someone else at a YouTube headquarters, then there'd be no point to killing anyone, because even if YouTube admins felt that they should give more views to vegetarian videos, or Facebook felt they should stop censoring evidence of animal torture, or Twitter too, actually, there's still, even if these shadow bans and algorithm changes, even if those changed because of a death threat, there's still the problem that, oh, all vegetarians are terrorists, or all vegetarians make death threats? Oh, well, I don't like vegetarians because they're crazy. But the thing is, there's more than one reason to be vegetarian right now. It's not just, oh, because animals have rights, or it's not just, oh, I think animals are cute, or oh, I empathize with animals. That's all the same thing, right? There's also, oh, I don't want the humans to go extinct, right? Because all of the meat industry pollutes more greenhouse gases than all vehicles on the road combined. Because cows emit methane, and there's all the poop, and the poop decomposes, and then you need to grow the food to feed the animals, and the food is grown with fossil fuels. The fertilizer and the pesticide is made with natural gas and petroleum. The fertilizer is made with natural gas. The pesticide... No. Depends which fertilizer and which pesticide, but it's all fossil fuels based. unless it's organic. And some of the organic fertilizers are, some of the organic stuff is also based on natural gas. But anyways, this all goes into the atmosphere, emits more greenhouse gases than all vehicles on the road combined, not including making the vehicle. And so that is an existential threat because of runaway global warming, relative humidity, water vapor, clouds, warmer atmosphere, you know. I've talked about this a lot in the past. So, or someone might go vegetarian because they want to live a healthier life and they realize all of this fat and hormones and stuff in the meat is making them unhealthy or making them fat or giving them diabetes, and so they stop eating meat. Or they reduce their meat consumption. So because we have all of these different reasons to go vegetarian, the meat industry can't say, this one vegetarian became a terrorist, therefore all vegetarians are terrorists. It doesn't work that way, because people will go vegetarian for lots of different reasons, not because they hate humans or they want to avenge animals. And vegetarians don't even, or vegans, I guess vegans are the more extremist ideology. Vegans don't even want to avenge animals. Vegans just want to set a precedent so that there's less suffering. So when a vegan steals a test animal or steals a lab rat to rescue them or euthanize them, they're destroying property. But destroying property doesn't make you a terrorist, right? Just like a water protector disagreeing with eminent domain for a pipeline doesn't make them a terrorist. Al-Nusra murdering children and destroying schools and hospitals, that makes them terrorists, right? Al-Nusra is a is a wing of Al-Qaeda, which is not on the terrorist watch list because they fight America's proxy wars in Syria. Or they used to until they lost. Now their like subsidiary, the White Helmets, is actually getting evacuated to Canada and Britain and other places. So that's pretty fucked up, and I protested against that. I wrote to my premier or whatever, my representative. But the point is, whenever someone commits an act of violence for a political cause, whether it's Al-Nusra or a police force or the military or Tiger Swan, they're a terrorist. That's what a terrorist is. They're causing terror. They're causing violence for a political aim. Violence against humans, let me clarify. So, yeah, I don't think water protectors are terrorists, and I don't think Animal Liberation Front are terrorists. But if you go in a YouTube headquarters and say, hey, stop censoring vegans, and then you shoot people, that is definitely terrorism because you're shooting humans. But I think as time progresses and more people become vegetarian, we're going to see more and more animal rights terrorists, because what is the punishment? You're gonna call all vegans terrorists? Maybe someone want a vegan to be healthier. Maybe someone went a vegan because of the CO2. Maybe they thought it wastes too much farmland and there's like world hunger, or maybe they think animals are cute. Like, empathizing with animals. It's it's kind of hard to demonize vegans and vegetarians, because it's like, literally, they just want to protect animals. And, like, the most bloodthirsty vegan will be friends as soon as you decide to stop hurting animals. That's like... So it's actually... I'm gonna have to say... No, I'm not allowed to incite violence. But it's... I don't think there's a way to stop the animal rights movement. I just think it's going to keep going. Because, like, there's already Tofurkey and Yves and super meat. Like, so you don't even have to give up meat to go vegetarian. You don't even have to give up meat. You can just grow it in a lab or eat the tofu meat or Tofurkey. Tofurkey is like... Tofurkey tastes exactly like meat. Super meat actually is meat, except grown in a lab instead of in a cage. So, like not from a live animal. So, it's... you just can't stop the animal rights movement. I think there's maybe two ways to fight the animal rights movement, and that's to say all vegans, all vegetarians are terrorists, or to just ignore it. Twitter and Facebook and YouTube shadow banning animal rights pages, and like that's just gonna give us more fuel, right? Because there's already a mentality of like censorship is bad. So yeah, it's really it's something you can talk to friends about. So it's hard to censor, like when you can literally talk to a friend and say you should feel bad about eating animals and here's why, or like a lot of friends have pets, right? And they wouldn't eat their pet. So if you wouldn't eat your pet, why would you like pay someone to torture an innocent animal? That's so wrong. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot more animal rights terrorists, and not just because of animal rights, but also because people are more and more desperate because of the inflation. Like, minimum wage not keeping up with inflation just makes a lot of desperate people, and desperate people are more likely to become criminals because they have less to lose, right? If you're well off like me and you have an inheritance, then you can spend time on YouTube or doing you have the capital to make good investments. Like, I don't want to give that up, right? But if someone's like working for minimum wage and it's not enough to get by, then they don't have as much to lose. And yeah, definitely not good to kill someone. Definitely not good to encourage someone to kill someone. That is, yeah. As soon as you commit violence against a human for a political cause, that is terrorism. But on the flip side, if a friend buys me lunch and there's meat in it, I'm not going to eat it. That's just disgusting. Because I think the consumer is to blame. Okay. The person torturing the animals is to blame. But because of predatory capitalism, they are coerced into doing that. So they don't necessarily have the free will. So that means part of the blame for the suffering goes to the person paying them, which is their boss, but more importantly, the consumer. Because who benefits the most from the slaughterhouse is person who actually consumes the product. So when an animal dies and you eat it, you're benefiting from its suffering, that lifelong suffering. So that is why the consumer takes the most blame. They are paying an exploited worker. Some of the workers are not exploited, and so they would take more blame. And the consumer benefits the most. And so that's why I blame the consumer. And also, we live in a consumer society, so so that's just like the economics supply chain for the blame. And if you buy for like your kid or your dog, then what that is you're being cruel, and the person eating the food is being evil, right? So there's a difference between evil and cruelty. Evil is where you are benefiting from someone else's preventable suffering, and cruelty is when you know that you are inflicting suffering. So the person paying the money to the meat industry is the person who's cruel, and the person eating it is the person who's evil. So you can have a 2-year-old baby fed up with however many chickens and pigs and cows you think is equivalent to the life of a human baby, and they will be evil because you've fed them so much meat. But if that baby grows up and says, you know what, I want to stop hurting animals, so I'm going to stop eating meat, then there's no reason to punish the baby, because anyone who could have taken retribution against the baby is dead. And yeah, I mean, there's this, I haven't really thought of like the whole cruelty from preying on the weak argument, but I think just on the basis of precedent that vegans can convince non-vegans to go vegan, then there's no reason to, it's just, why would I get in a fight with a vegetarian when I can get in a fight with a non-vegetarian, right? I don't... Listen. Here's the distinction between revenge and vigilante justice. People who try to do vigilante justice like Batman or Spider-Man, and they're going to uphold not the law but their own interpretation of morality. People who uphold their own interpretation of morality need a reason, right? But why do they feel justified to do that? Out of an obligation to protect others. And so if you have stopped eating meat, then there's no obligation, there's no need to, like, you're now one of the good guys, you know? If there's a political debate and you go and join the vegetarian side, then the vegetarians will welcome you, because that was their whole aim all along, is they just wanted everyone to stop eating meat. So, but yeah, you can't demonize every vegetarian, because some people do it for health, some people do it for the environment, some people do it for empathy, and I think the hatred that we have for meat eaters is born from empathy, and when someone actually, like, if someone becomes a criminal to like rescue an animal, or because they think it'll be good in the long term, or just out of pure frustration, I think they also feel obligated on behalf of the animals. And so where is that obligation? What is the motivation then? if There's no motivation for revenge. It's not a revenge thing, right? It's for the future. It's to prevent suffering in the future. And so these animal rights terrorists, they're concerned about the future and minimizing suffering in the future, and they're not out to get revenge. So that means there's going to be more terrorists, because you can't just demonize every vegetarian. That's not how it works. There's too many reasons to be vegetarian now. But yeah, there's so many desperate people. The economy is on the verge of collapse, and that means more desperate people, and who are less concerned about their own punishment, and more concerned with preventing suffering. So you have all of these people speaking out against wars and animal abuse and pipelines because I don't know, maybe they don't want humans to go extinct. But yes. And then maybe you have the nihilists who actually do want humans to go extinct, but don't want every other species to be dragged down with us. I think the most ethical way to deal with overpopulation is population planning, where you where you have subsidies for the first kid, and then you don't have subsidies for the kids after. Or maybe like the first born twins or triplets, but after that, like, there's less government subsidies. And so that sucks for the kids who have irresponsible parents, but then some people learn, oh, we should stop having kids if we can't afford to. But that's definitely a very cruel, authoritarian measure. But I think it's like better than the other responses to overpopulation, because yeah, overpopulation gets nasty really fast, and we have massive overpopulation issues, and systemic issues, and economic issues. We could be using wood as fertilizer. We could be using poop as fertilizer. Instead, we use fossil fuels. And poop. We do use some poop as fertilizer. But yeah, that's just like chopping down tropical forests to grow cows. It's not that sustainable. Salinification, desertification, like eventually everything's going to be a desert. Maybe like some space at the poles where we can grow food in the tundra, and that's not going to be a tundra, it's going to be like tropical rainforest at the poles, because, you know, clouds absorb sunlight. That's like, I've worked in a greenhouse, right? And it gets hot because it's a literal greenhouse. And clouds have the same effect as those walls of a greenhouse, right? Or bricks on a house. No, bricks don't let sunlight through, but the sunlight gets trapped and turned into thermal energy, you know, like energy goes in, heat comes out, right? That's what clouds do. And as it heats up, you get more clouds because of relative humidity. It's an exponential curve. And that's bad. So one more reason to go vegetarian. You don't want the planet heating up super fast. Or maybe you just want more humans to be fed because it takes like 6 times as much corn to grow a cow as it does to grow a corn. It's like I think 4 to 10 times for every trophic level. There's like different efficiencies. It depends how much grass the cow eats, because I think if they eat more grass, then they lose weight because it like filters out some of the fat, or I don't know. Also, like if an animal does exercise, they get skinnier. Like, I don't. Well, I don't actually do. I don't do much exercise, but I'm pretty skinny. Oh no, you'll be skinny like me. Oh no. That's the horror. Oh. But you won't have the media going like, people who want to be skinny are terrorists. Like, that's not going to happen. And so, yeah, I think a lot of people, before they commit an act of violence, they're like, how is this going to affect my movement? Right? But yeah, you literally have vegetarians who just want to be skinny. And that's like, that's hard to, I don't know. You can say, well, that's unhealthy. But then you have like vegetarians who just want to be healthy. So it's like, it's very nuanced, right? There's different reasons. It's not all like, ooh, avenge the animals. Like, that's not even a thing. There's no precedent. Like, avenging animals is the last thing on our minds. I kid you not. It's not about revenge. It's about like a reasonable future where, because people hate suffering. I hate suffering. I hate my own suffering, so I'd want to prevent other people from suffering. And if that means making a few people feel guilty, then I guess I'm gonna have to make some people feel guilty. Alright, so that's my take on vegetarian terrorists. We're gonna see more terrorism. Not just with vegetarians, but with everyone, because the economy is literally fucked, and all these countries moving away from the US dollar, China moving away from the US dollar, Russia moving away from the US dollar, Iran moving away from the US dollar. Why? Because the US dollar is paper money that has no value except people trade oil and other goods in the US dollar, so it has that retailer value. The retailer accepts the US dollar, and hey, it has a value. But there's other stuff like gold and silver, and you can trade oil. Actually, no, you're not allowed to trade oil outside the US dollar. But some countries do. And so that's why America goes to war. And it's this for-profit wars. But someday some days the banks will keep on printing out the money, and actually, we're not even allowed to see how much money the banks issue out. Because big time lending, is it? The M3 money, is that big time lending? I don't know. There's some kind of like interest rate you can get from the bank that doesn't follow Federal Reserve law. And so banks can just indefinitely issue out money. And so that's like, there's definitely a revolving door between banks and for-profit war contractors, because like they need money to make the whatever they use for killing people, and then they get paid, and then they pay the other dudes or the lobbyists, and the lobbyists pay the politicians, and the banks pay the politicians, and everybody pays the politicians, and the politicians are like, keep printing that money. I think I'm exaggerating a little, but my point is there's a conflict of interests when countries go to war over, like, what was it? When America invaded Libya, the first thing the rebels did before they like conquered the country, they just like conquered the capital, and then before they conquer the country, before they form a government, they don't have a government. It's just rebels, no government. They haven't conquered the country. The first thing they do is, we are going to establish a central bank based on the US dollar instead of the gold dinar. Like, oh. Huh. What a coincidence! That's exactly what the US banks wanted. That's exactly what Wall Street wanted. How fortuitous. Amazing coincidence that the rebels that America armies that the U.S. military backed happened to coincide with Wall Street's interests, and and that the U.S. military is funded by Wall Street. That's how odd. Maybe this M3 money is just to get around the $21 trillion Pentagon spending that was like, hey, Pentagon guys, what happened to that $21 trillion? That $21 trillion? New phone who dis? Like, what? What are you going to do with $21 trillion? There's like $2 trillion in circulation. How are you going to use... so maybe this... What is the... I need to find the actual word. Loan? Big loan? Wikipedia? M3 money. You can Google it. There's a certain type of loan that you don't need any reserves to issue out money, so you can just deposit money and then get money back. And I don't know, maybe some military contractors do that. I don't know. But I bet civilians can't access that kind of loan. It's not a loan. The bank pays out interest to the person depositing money. But, like, what's the interest rate? And there's no cap on the money you deposit. There's no cap on the money the bank pays out. And ever since 2006, how much money was issued out has been confidential. Okay. That's not disconcerting at all. So yeah, US dollar and euro gonna go hyperinflated. The value, you're gonna need more and more money to afford stuff. Price of living gonna go up. If you have a retirement savings, I'm not allowed to give financial advice either, but I took all my money out of my retirement savings plan, which was only like $4,000, and I put it all, or was it 2,000? Anyways, I put it all into Bitcoin. Or, yeah, Bitcoin, a couple other cryptocurrencies. If you don't want to take risks, you can buy Bitcoin at $6,200 USD, or you can buy gold, or silver, because gold does not lose value, but paper money does lose value. So yeah, that's maybe gold is a better investment than Bitcoin for the long term. I don't know. I really don't know, because banks bought into Bitcoin early, so they kind of control the price. But it's not like an Illuminati type thing. It's like multiple bankers bought into Bitcoin. But like individual bankers aren't as interested in preserving the buying power of paper money. They just want to make money. So, I don't know. This was a long video, probably really cringy. Hopefully I don't get in trouble for making it. But yeah. It was fun. It was fun talking. Thanks for listening.